call the meeting of the Board of Public Works to order. As on November 19th, 2020. As chairperson of the Board of Public Works, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are first providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom through the city's ID department for this electronic meeting. To access Zoom, please refer to the agenda or the city's website for the meeting link. To join by phone, dial 1-929-436-2866. The meeting ID is 996-6915, 3719. The password for the meeting is 486917. The public may also view this meeting on Comcast Channel 16. Second, by providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings, instructions through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at www.nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and at the Department of Public Works Administration Building at 9 Riverside Drive. Third, by providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting via phone or channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. And fourth, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the phone number mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, they should state why they are not physically present for the meeting, and also should please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches?
I'm here. I'm not present physically because of the social distancing that's being required, and I am alone in the room.
Commissioner Tease?
I'm present. I'm at home due to the governor's orders. I'm in my house, segregated from the rest of my family in my office.
Commissioner Pappas?
I'm here. I'm home due to the global pandemic, and I'm currently in a room by myself.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes, I am here sitting in my office. I am following the governor's guidelines by social distancing.
And Commissioner Schoeneman?
I'm here. I'm attending remotely because of the governor's emergency order, and I'm alone in this room in my house.
All right, thank you all. I'm glad everybody could attend. Our first item is the approval of the agenda. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Any discussion? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches?
Yes.
Commissioner Tease?
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Schoeneman?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have the motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting of October 22nd. Commissioner Tease.
Sure. I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of October 22, 2020.
Any corrections or comments on that? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
You know what? I was not present, so I will abstain.
Commissioner Sho-
That motion passes. Now we have public comment. Is there any member of the public who's part of the meeting who would like to comment to the board regarding any of the items we're looking at tonight?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think you failed to, I think Commissioner Shoneman failed to be allowed to vote on the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut it off too quickly?
Yes, I think so.
I think you were approving his abstention too quickly.
Oh, yes, he distracted me with that abstention. Don't throw those kind of curveballs at me. I can't, handle too many things at the same time. So back to Commissioner Shoneman's vote on the agenda.
Yeah,
minutes.
Commissioner Shoneman
for the
votes
minutes.
yes. And the
for
motion,
the minute.
excuse me, on the minutes, Commissioner Shoneman votes yes, and the motion passes. Back to public comment. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak to the commission? I don't hear anything. So we'll go next to the presentation of the disc golf idea by Avery Jenkins. Is Mr. Jenkins on the call?
Yes, sir. I'm right
So
here.
can I, Mayor, may I just start for a minute before we get to
Please.
Mr. Jenkins? Okay.
Yes, of course.
Um,
Got the
so,
direct-
disc golf is something that it has become very, very popular actually throughout the country. There are great courses all over New Hampshire and all over New England. And I think it was first brought to my attention by the mayor, who received a petition by a group of residents who were asking if we could build a disc golf course. And the mayor thought it looked pretty interesting and asked me to look into it. And then Alex McLean, who is on the call right now and is also a truck driver at the street department, approached me and said, "Hey, I have this idea." And so Alex has educated me about disc golf. It's been very interesting. We've had several conversations about it, and didn't really have a location to install a disc golf course until recently. And when we built the boat ramp at Greeley Park, we realized, wow, this could be a really great spot for not only 9 holes, but perhaps 18 holes. The exciting thing about disc golf is it's not a very expensive proposition. It's something that we could do within our operating budget. And it's a great sport for families and something you can do outside. And it's the other thing that's exciting to me about disc golf is that it really doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a pro. You can still have fun playing and have fun as a family. So that's what we're here tonight with both Avery Jenkins and Alex McLean, and they're going to talk a little bit about disc golf and explain what it is and what they do. So with that, I'd like to introduce
If I can ask,
Avery.
if I may ask a quick question, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get an idea as to what it is. Is what is on Greeley Park on the Manchester Street side?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. So Avery Jenkins now, it will tell you a little bit about disc golf and tell you some history and what he does. And he currently manages multiple disc golf courses, and he is also a world champion disc golfer. So we're honored to have him, and I'll turn it over to you, Avery.
Thank you very much, Director Photo. To the board, just want to give you a brief history on disc golf and then also kind of tell you what I do and how I do it. So disc golf, as she described, is a very affordable, usually free outdoor recreational activity that caters to the masses of all skill levels, of all ages. You can literally have 5-year-old kids playing with 85-year-old adults. It really covers a really wide range of ages and skill levels. A lot of beginners and a lot of new players had found the sport during the last 6 to 10 months with the pandemic, and it's one of those sports that it's growing very rapidly, very fast. Golf and disc golf are literally erupting right now on the scene as far as popularity, accessibility, affordability, and just a great outdoor recreation. The sport of disc golf has been around since 1975 with the first installation of a course in Southern California, Pasadena, California, to be specific. And it's experienced some good growth through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Myself, I started playing professional in 2000. I come from a disc golf family, originally from Ohio, but then I moved to the West Coast and I traveled throughout the country, throughout the world. I'm probably one of the most, if not the most traveled disc golf competitor and player, playing disc golf in over 22 countries and 49 states. And I pride myself, I'm actually one of 10 players to play over 1,200 courses throughout the world. So I'm very heavily involved in disc golf. It's my life. Every single day I live it, I eat it, I breathe it. Disc golf is it's a big passion of mine. So with disc golf, just kind of the basics of it, it's the chain basket with the chains hanging down. It's a basket and it's elevated about 2 feet off the ground. The object of the game is throwing the disc from a teeing area, like a cement tee pad or a turf tee pad, throwing from a teeing area, much like a golf ball is hit from a teeing area, advancing down the fairway, and the end obligation or the goal is to get the disc into the basket in the least amount of throws, just like getting the ball in the hole and the least amount of hits. So it's very simple concept and simple idea, but it's different. It's the same as golf, and it is golf, but it's different equipment. Same mentality. We use birdies, pars, and bogeys terminology. But the cool thing about disc golf as opposed to golf is that you're actually throwing the disc. The golf disc is a aerodynamic shaped frisbee. They fly a lot faster and go a lot farther. About the same weight, but they're just much smaller. And we have a variety of discs that do different things. They fly at different ranges and do different shapes of shots. You have some discs that go straight, some that go right, some that go left, some you can even throw on an angle and get them to roll. So we have our drivers, we have our mid ranges, kind of like our irons in golf, and then we do have our putters, which are a little more rounded on the edges that actually hit the chains and drop into the basket. So pretty fairly easy concept. But the big thing about it is just the affordability and the accessibility in a lot of the bigger cities, but even outside to the smaller towns. And I've seen it on a very national scale, even global scale, seeing the popularity grow and increase throughout the years. So yeah, as you let in myself, a touring player and competitor for over 30 years, playing when I was a youngster at 6 years old, and been involved in it, obviously with the family, being heavily involved in it over the last 20 years as a touring player, and eventually won my world title in 2009 alongside my sister Valerie. She had won her 3rd world title, and that was my 1st world title. And we're the 2 siblings and the only siblings to ever win world titles together within the sport. And then my mom also, she's a 3-time world champion. So we come from a world champion family, but a disc golf family through and through. So something we're very passionate about. I was approached about this possibility for a project and a disc golf course going in Nashua, to expand on the recreational offering to the community, having a sport or an activity that allows a wide range of players, skill levels, and ages to participate in it simultaneously. Having kids, having families out there enjoying outdoor recreation. That's a big part of where we're at now, especially during these times. Disc golf and golf have been increasing for the fact they're one of the few, if only, activities you can really participate outside at a good, safe, social distance. As we know, basketball, baseball, football, those kind of sports, they're hard to play safely because you're sharing the same ball, or or frisbee in this case if you're playing ultimate. But within disc golf, everybody's got their own discs, and the only thing we really share is the basket itself, which is very low risk at that point. But having the option, having the ability, having the possibility to have a world-class venue within the city limits to offer the community, offer the city. There are a few other courses within the area, but nothing like this to what we can do it as far as my knowledge and experience as a player, but also a disc golf course designer, offering a good variety of distances and shapes and difficulties and challenges, trying to make it accommodating for a wide range of players, but also the ability to lengthen it and stretch it if we want to have larger scale tournaments and events come into the area and come into the city that could prove to be a good draw throughout the state, throughout the region, and then possibly throughout the country. So bringing me on the project for the opportunity, very excited, obviously talking to the director and Alex about the possibilities, trying to figure out and discuss what the next steps would be, but wanted to talk to you and give you a little history lesson in what disc golf is. A lot of players or a lot of people had heard about it. Some are familiar with it more so now than ever, but they see it, and there's a lot more accessibility. Like I said, a lot more visibility in a lot of cities and a lot of towns that have disc golf courses these days, and that's something definitely that's lacking at this level. Trying to provide something a little more unique and special to the area, again, for the community, for the town, for the city, and something we can provide that would be special and different. And I'm welcome and open to any questions you might have about disc golf and the history of it. I'm a pretty good source of knowledge when it comes to it. Like I said, I live it every day.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners?
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Pappas.
So we have a disc golf over at the Manchester side of Greeley Park. And I live right near there, and when, walking by there, it's very, very rarely used. So I guess I would kind of scratch my head and question why we would ever put in a second course when we've got a course that was put in there that takes up a lot of open space that people don't already use. So I guess that's more for the director.
Sure. And Alex, I'm going to let you chime in on this too, because you play a lot of courses in the area. But Commissioner Pappas, from what I understand, that really is not a course. It's sort of baskets that were just hung. So it isn't a course that would be appealing to disc golfers. There was no design. There were just sort of baskets that were hung. And I don't think that there's really any challenge to the course. And so there are a lot of other courses in the area that would be far more attractive for folks to play. But Alex, you want to comment on? I know.
Well, if I can ask one more question, if I may, Mr. Mayor? So would we get rid of those there? Because, quite honestly, nobody uses them and they're an eyesore.
Yes, that would be the intent, to reuse those baskets.
Okay. And so all of those would be gone.
Yes, that would be the intent. Alex, do you want to add to that regarding that course? You look frozen. Alex.
Yes. So the baskets that are in the Manchester the baskets that are at the Manchester Street location are actually the basket itself that is to catch your disc is suspended by tight chains, which do not allow you to catch the actual disc when thrown. It is I would agree that it is an eyesore. Those are not professional grade or really any grade level of a basket. And the baskets that would go in would be much greater. The course as it sits on Manchester Street, I believe there's only one tee pad. So I've been playing for 5 years, and I've used the Manchester Street location a handful of times. I go there to practice, a player of my level, which is not all that great, I can throw one shot from one side of that field to the other. And those baskets are anywhere from, I think it's 80 feet apart to 100 feet apart. It is not a course that is desirable as it sits right now for anyone to go to with better locations in the area. Pelham, Manchester. Manchester has two courses, full 18-hole courses that were professionally designed, and I believe that those courses in the area are the reason why you see a lack of people going to the Manchester Street location, because there are better options in the area. And with the possibility of designing a professional grade course here in New Hampshire, I think you'll get more people to utilize what you could possibly be putting in.
Okay, so you mentioned it, and again, this is just a question, just for clarification. So you mentioned the space between the baskets over on Manchester Street. What are the normal, like, compare that to the normal distances that you would have at a professional type of course?
Good question. So this area you're describing sounds more like a practice area where baskets were just kind of put in the ground and they sat there, and possibly players just forgot about it. It was done so long ago that
I'll give that to Avery.
So typically, he mentioned 80 feet apart on some of these basket locations in this specific park. On a professionally designed disc golf course, you'll see a range of holes being anywhere from 250 feet up to possibly 1,000 feet, depending on a par 3, a par 4, a par 5. Obviously, it depends on what kind of level of course you're designing, what access to land, accessibility, natural features, natural aesthetics, and really trying to incorporate a good challenge. And typically where the sport started, a lot of smaller parks that could accommodate such an activity. And a lot of times they might be 200-foot holes up to 300-foot holes, maybe 400-foot holes, but they're all par 3s. We're at a time within the sport and the kind of evolution of the sport where we're existing more and gravitating more to the par 3s, 4s, and 5, much like golf. So there is a range. The practice area you described, 80 feet, is fairly short. On pro level or professional level courses, they're anywhere from 300 to 1,000 feet. Typically find the sweet spot anywhere from 3, 4, 5, 600 feet in between the teeing area and the basket location.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else have questions, comments?
Yes, Mayor.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, Avery, how big is a typical 18-hole course? I mean, what are we talking about?
So that's the cool thing about disc golf. We can occupy many different locations and spaces, unused properties that might not accommodate a residential or other projects. Disc golf can kind of fill in the gaps on a lot of unused or undesirable lands a lot of times, or wooded areas that could be cleaned up or utilized that way. So a typical disc golf course, if you're talking about 18 holes, you're looking at about at least an acre a hole to make it playable. And if you start going upwards of about 35, 40 acres, you get a really nice pro level course. So you get around, 2 acres a hole to accommodate, not saying we're going to use 2 acres for every single hole, some less, some more, but utilizing a good chunk of area as far as 35 to 40 acres, you can get a really nice 18-hole course. But then I've also played on 9-hole courses on, 5 acres before, like a smaller area, park setting, very, very recreational friendly kind of courses. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Usually about 35 to 40 for a full 18 on a pro level course. Good question.
You have anything else, Commissioner Moriarty?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Tease.
I just have one question. I texted a friend of mine whose daughter has been involved with disc golf in Florida and said, boy, I've got Avery Jenkins on a meeting, and he was very surprised by that. I'm curious how we were able to have Mr. Jenkins present to us today, or perhaps I missed it at the start.
I'm flattered. Thank you. Thank you. I was actually contacted from a, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll let you know, Commissioner T. So I was talking to Alex and I said, asked Alex who he thought could design a really great course for us so that we could have beginners, families, all, and maybe even tournaments. And so Alex thought that Avery Jenkins was the guy. And so we contacted him and had a great conversation about the possibilities. And then he was gracious enough to agree to speak with the board this evening.
So
Great,
Avery, where are you? Are you, yeah, you obviously at home, but where's your home?
So I currently live an hour north of Tulsa, Oklahoma. My wife's family, we own a ranch out here. It's 300-acre ranch, and we have 2 disc golf courses on our property, 2 full 18-hole courses on our property. I'm the course pro, also the head superintendent in maintaining the courses. We have the #1 rated disc golf course in the state of Oklahoma here on the property. So we take huge pride in that. And we do host events and tournaments out here on a regular basis, but it is open to the public, and a lot of players will get a good draw throughout the state, even throughout the country, players traveling on road trips coming out here to play our courses. So I live in Oklahoma currently. I'm originally from Ohio. I lived on the West Coast, Oregon, went to school, graduated university in Oregon, lived in California for another 7 years beyond that, and live in Oklahoma now, of all places. But it's a good family living, good quality life out here.
That's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Jenkins or for Alex? Is there a motion on the floor, or are we just
No.
no, there's just a presentation. Is that
No, correct. That's just a presentation, just to introduce. This is something that we would need, if we'd like to move forward and have Mr. Jenkins design a course for us, and then bring that to the Board of Public Works and the Board of Aldermen for approval, because it's at Greeley Park. So,
okay?
but again, there's no funding that would be needed. It's something that we could fund within our operating budget. So.
All right. We now have a presentation regarding sewer user fees.
Thank you.
If, Mr. Mayor, if I could,
very much, Avery and
Yes,
Alex.
Commissioner Pappas.
Thank you.
Commissioner
no, I
Pappas.
just, so we just had the presentation, but money within our budget, I mean, it was nice to have a presentation, but we would have to approve any money that's going to be spent on a design for that, I assume?
No, it'll be under, all in, Commissioner Pappas, it'll be under $25,000.
Oh,
So you wouldn't have to approve the funding. But you would have to approve the installation.
okay. I'm not so sure in these times. I don't know how other people feel, but I'm not so sure that, having one presentation, that we should be spending city money on this plan, but I don't, I guess there's nothing we can do, what fund does that come out of?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a point. We have to look into that issue, because this $25,000 minimum, or has to do with when there's money budgeted for a particular purpose. For example, to buy, a lawn.
Salt, yeah.
Whatever. And that's been budgeted, and then the administration wants to go ahead and execute the purchase that's budgeted. We do not approve the board does not, have to approve the contract or the actual purchase if that is, less than 25,000. However, if there's no budgeted item in the public works budget that would cover this, then I think the board would have to approve some kind of transfer.
No, there is, Mayor. We have in the street department, we have infrastructure money that we use for things such as Lincoln Park and upgrades to different facilities. So that money would be approved to use for this, as long as it's not under 25,000.
What do you think
Which it wouldn't be.
well, what do you think the design on this is there a design?
It's under $5,000 for the design.
And is there an installation cost?
There would be an installation cost, and I don't know what that is yet. We won't know that until we have a design. But it'll be under $25,000. Much of the work we can do ourselves. It's not a lot of work. It's really just, there might be some small brush and things that we need to clear. We can do that, and then really just buying the baskets. As
I understand what would happen, the process, you'd go ahead with a design, you'd spend very limited money. Then in order to spend anything further, in order to install, you would need approval of the Board of Public Works to go forward. And you would need approval of the Board of Aldermen as well.
Correct.
So you wouldn't go beyond design money before coming back to the board for approval of the design and installation concept.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, I will say, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
My door has been busting down asking, asking for that. We don't have a lot of open space in the city. So, I guess because of this $25,000 under that, anything under that, we can't approve it. But I don't know how other people feel, but I kind of feel skeptical about, spending that kind of money, giving our current circumstances. But those are my feelings. Thank you.
Now I can't see everyone. Now I'm interrupting our discussion just for a moment. I can't see everyone who is on the meeting. I only see 4 people, and obviously there are more. I meant to ask whether Alderman O'Brien, who's our liaison, is here at the meeting or not. I can't tell. Are you here?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm here, just silently standing by. Thank you.
Well, next time speak up if I don't acknowledge you at the beginning, because again, I can't tell who's here. All I can see are myself, Lisa, Mr. Jenkins, and that's about it. All right, so we have Alderman O'Brien as well. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this, the approach that we've outlined? Any commissioners? And I have one last question for Mr. Avery. So would you leave trees would this be a treed kind of with a series of tree obstacles? Would you be proposing to cut down trees, like a golf fairway? I mean, how would this ultimately look?
I appreciate the question. So yeah, to give a better visual perspective of what disc golf is, it's not like golf and a golf course. It's not wide open space where you're clear cutting and making these massive 100-foot fairways, and there's no use of chemicals. It's very kind of grassroots. It's very environmental friendly, very low impact. The way I design and properly prepare a course in a design, I try to minimize my impact when I'm out there. I take the thinner areas and the less denser areas to create fairways, natural fairways, and use the natural features of the land to present themselves for the holes. As Director Photo said, we're going to minimize the removal, a lot more ground debris and brush. If there are some trees, again, I'm not taking it through old growth forest, and I'm not going to try to drop big trees. It would be more taking more undergrowth and smaller trees if needed. My experience, I've designed on U.S. National Forest lands out in California where I was unable to remove a single tree and still put together a really nice playable 18-hole course. So again, I don't want to make more work for anybody. I want to minimize the impact I'm going to have on a property. And we do need fairways, we do need routes, we do need air, alleyways and corridors to throw the disc from tee pad to basket. But in my mind, the entire time, I'm very conscious of minimalizing the workload and minimalizing the removal of anything that needs to be trimmed or cut back in order to make a course.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts or comments?
I just want to add one other thing. So there are a number of residents who did sign a petition who have asked for this. So it is something that Nashua residents want it. And I would also just like to add that there are a lot of families that are playing disc golf. I did not realize that until Alex started educating me more. And I have talked to my counterparts in Manchester, the director and assistant director, and both of their courses are very heavily used by families. And I anticipate that this course would be as well. And it's a great opportunity. I love to see things where sports that families can do together. This is really something that really it's hard sometimes, when you have teenagers and younger kids and trying to find a sport that you can all play and have fun doing. And this is something that families can really get involved in. And so that's something I think is very appealing, and I think would be a great thing for our city. Okay, thank you.
Other comments? All right, so let's move on to the sewer user fees.
Thank you, Alex and Avery.
On that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Who's doing the presentation on the sewer user fees?
I will, Frank Ayotte from Hazen and Sawyer.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, can everybody see the screen?
You know what, I'm going to have to turn my TV on, so I'm going to mute it. So if someone hears noise for a minute, I will apologize. So go ahead, but I just wanted to warn people, and I apologize, Mr. Mayor, for interrupting. I think that I think I got my mute on, so my mute's on. Thank you.
Okay, very, very good. Just a little bit about myself. I'm with the engineering firm of Hazen and Sawyer. We are a long-term consultant for the city of Nashua, specializing in sewer and wastewater. One of our service offerings was or is analysis of sewer rates from different municipalities and development of sewer rate models. So when the city approached us to review their proposed sewer increases, we were happy to do that. A little bit about today's agenda. I want to walk through the historical rates of the city, where they've gone from the last 16 years, as well as the proposed sewer rate increases that they're proposing for 2021 to 2023. The drivers, what's driving the rate increases, the planned major capital investments that are being funded, the funding strategies that are minimizing the capital expenditures and the rate impacts that the city is employing. Comparison of the Nashua sewer rates with selected cities in both New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And then looking at the affordability of Nashua's proposed sewer rates using the Environmental Protection Agency's metrics. And then lastly, future strategies to mitigate the impacts mandated by the capital expenditures, including the integrated planning framework, which I'll describe later in the presentation. So just a little bit about the historic charges that the city has charged its users over the last 16 years. And just by the graph that you see here, really what it amounts to is the city for the last 16 years has really just had a sewer increase of just over 2%, which is equivalent to cost of living increases essentially.
I'm sorry, can you repeat again the number of years that you said?
So over the last,
16?
you know, so.
Oh, okay,
so-
yeah, it does say that at the bottom of the screen. I'm so sorry for interrupting. I see that. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. Oops, sorry.
Thank you.
So a little bit about how does that compare for Nashua sewer rates compared to other cities in New Hampshire and in Massachusetts. So as you can see in today's, for the household quarterly bill, in today's rates, how that compares to Manchester, Concord, Keene, Portsmouth, Salem, and Lowell, it's still well below what the city is charging compared to those other cities. An average quarterly bill for all these cities, not including Nashua, is significantly higher. And data from the 2018 New Hampshire state average quarterly bill, again, even higher than that. So in terms of the proposed sewer increases, what we're looking at, we analyzed for the city. It was a 20% increase in sewer user fees for 2021, followed by a 15% increase in 2022 with no increase in 2023. So looking at what that might look like, 2020, as we saw on the last slide, 79.14, again, very low in comparison to the other cities in town. From 2021, 94.97, and then 109.22. And I'm just going to go back to the last slide just as a comparison aspect. $109 is still, you know, within a affordable range here, and I'm going to get to the EPA metrics on that for the actual increase. So again, what is considered affordable? According to the EPA uses a 2% of your household income as the threshold for sewer bill affordability. So what we did is we looked at household income for the city of Nashua in quintiles, in the 20%. And as you can see here, in the lowest 20% quintile for income, it's still well below from, in terms of household income, from 2020 into 2021 and 2022 and 2023, well below the 2% household income threshold on what the EPA considers affordable. So what exactly are the drivers that are actually driving the rate increases? Current and future capital and project investments, the annual debt service is projected to increase about $5 million in 2020 to $8.4 million. Annual operating and maintenance expenditures are increases at only a modest rate with respect to almost a cost of living increase. So the actual city has done a very good job at keeping a cap on operation and maintenance expenditures. And the only really source of stable revenue for for covering the growing debt service and capital improvement projects in the future is in fact the user fees. 2020, 94% of wastewater revenues were derived from retail user fees, and only a small amount beyond that is collected through the permit fees. So what are these capital expenditures that are driving the rate increases in addition to the debt service? It's really more than $52 million in upcoming required capital investments from 2020 to 2025. And some of these include a pump station rehabilitations, multiple pump stations in phase 1, phase 2, in the order of 10+ million. A CMOM plan, which is basically your sewer collection system, capacity management, operation and management plan, and that's mandated through EPA. Your sewer infrastructure program, improvements to your sewer collection system as a result of the analysis performed in the CMOM plan in the order of 30 million. Wastewater treatment upgrades in the order of almost 4 million. Phosphorus removal, 1 million, and wastewater plant booster pump stations, just under 1 million. So these are significant capital expenditures that need to be funded and really need to be funded by the sewer user fees. So let's talk a little bit about the funding strategies to minimize the ratepayer impacts. So Nashua has done a really good job of mixing financing strategies to minimize ratepayer impacts. And that is accessing the SRF financing as much as possible, bonding different projects, and a combination of the two. Also funding smaller capital projects through cash where practical, maintaining capital equipment reserve funds to reduce year-to-year rate impacts. And certainly, as we saw in the last slide, managing the operation and maintenance costs at a 3% increase per year. That's very marginal, almost cost of living increases, which is really, I would say, frugal on behalf of the city's behalf. So what is the integrated planning framework and how does it reduce future costs? Right now, Hazen and Sawyer is assisting the city in developing the integrated plan framework, and it is a approved EPA methodology, which really prioritizes the future capital projects that best address the most pressing system needs as determined by Nashua. So the biggest bang for the buck. And it really allows the Nashua to essentially plan its capital investments and defer capital projects with fewer benefits in the future. So what that allows you to do is kind of smooth the cost curve and allow you to avoid drastic rate increases from year to year. It allows you a more balanced increase over time. In addition to the integrated planning framework that Hazen Sawyer is helping the city with, we are also developing a sewer rate model for the city. We've done these all over the country. It's a dynamic rate model. It allows you to plug in all your capital improvement projects associated with your sewer work and your wastewater work, and dynamically see how that rate might be affected as you plan these projects from year to year. I think the city has done, Carolyn O'Connor has done a great job actually providing us with a lot of the background information that we use to develop this presentation, and we'll use that information in the development of the sewer rate model. So in conclusion, and I'll open it up for questions after this, the rate increases cover the costs essentially to finance the capital investments to comply with a lot of the regulatory mandates associated with the EPA, to maintain the quality of service with respect to the wastewater and sewer systems to the ratepayers. Nashua has done a great job in maintaining a cap on these costs and trying to plan these. The sewer charges in 2023 are still lower than the peer utility charges in 2020, and well below the average that I had quoted, I think, which is over $163 on a quarterly bill through the state, and that was from 2018 data. From the EPA metrics of the 2% affordability metrics, still well below in the lowest quintile for residents in that income bracket. And certainly the integrated planning framework and development of the rate model will further reduce impacts from a planning perspective as part of the work that we're helping the city out with. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
Anybody have questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Mr. Ayotte, could you explain what the debt service is?
So the debt service is associated with projects, and I don't know if Carolyn is on the a call. Carolyn O'Connor on the call?
Yes, I just had to unmute. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the debt service relates to the all the capital projects that we've funded either through bond or
Right.
SRF loans.
Okay, so most of the revenue that you want to pull in with the rate increases is going to pay debt. Is that
Debt
the
and
case?
finance those other capital improvements that I mentioned in one of the slides.
Okay,
And some of those are future projects.
okay.
Anyone else?
Yes,
Commissioner Moriarty?
thank you. Thank you, Frank, the excellent presentation. I enjoyed
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
I was just curious if during your assessment, if you also compared permit fees with Nashua and other communities.
I did not look at the actual permit fees associated with those communities. However, when we developed that sewer rate model, we do look at all sources of income that would go into actually as a funding strategy. So once that sewer rate model is developed, we would look at as we try to fund future capital improvement projects, are those permit fees, in line with other communities? Is there an opportunity to either increase them or decrease them or whatever as in conjunction with a rate increase to actually fund the projects? What is the equitable balance?
Here's.
Commissioner Moriarty, is that you conclude your questions?
I'm all set. Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else?
If I may,
Commissioner Pappas?
we've always had the city go through this, but I appreciated the presentation, and just so that the folks know, there was a time. There was a time when I was first on the board, and the Board of Public Works had voted to cut the sewer rates, and we were actually almost out of money. And I think we didn't pay enough attention to the sewer rates. We were approving everything to do with wastewater as we know is very expensive, and we were approving stuff, and we really almost ran out of money. And so as much as I do hate to have the sewer rates rise and that sort of thing, but it's a very, very expensive endeavor. And I think it's been a while since we've looked at them. By law, we're supposed to look at them, by ordinance rather, we're supposed to look at them every year. And I don't think we've looked at them for a couple of years. So, I certainly take this very seriously after we came to a very difficult very difficult set of circumstances. Probably, I want to say like somewhere between 2008 and 2010. But it's just a corrosive environment, in wastewater. And I think this was a really good idea to have this evaluation. And I think I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Commissioner Moriarty took my question, so I appreciate him asking that. And I think I'll echo the sentiments of the balance of the commissioners. I thought it was an excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, at this point, what do you need, Lisa? Just any kind of.
This was just informational at this point, Mayor. We will be presenting a similar presentation to the Board of Aldermen. And there will be a referral back to the Board of Public Works. And at that point, we would seek approval from the Board of Public Works. We
All
just
right.
wanted to give you a presentation so you knew, you could start thinking about it and knew this was coming.
Thank you for the presentation.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, so we're going to go on to the street department. I assume Mr. Ibarra is here.
Yes, Mayor, I am.
We have item A is a motion, Commissioner Shoneman.
I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I move to approve the purchase of 2 trackless MT7 articulated tractors from HP Fairfield of Hopkinton, New Hampshire, for the total price of $305,855 pursuant to the HGAC contract number GR01-20. Funding will be through Department 161 Street, Fund Trust Activity CERF.
Mr. Ibarra?
So these sidewalk tractors are our primary means of maintaining safe passage for the walking students in the schools. That's our priority, 1,000 feet in all directions after a snowstorm. And then we go into our primary roads and we do 50 miles of sidewalk. So we're replacing 2 sidewalk tractors with 2, like for like. There are quite a few vehicle motions here tonight I just want to throw out. I did ask our fleet manager from the street department to join us tonight so he can speak to any technical questions for these vehicles as we go through the motions. And in Nick's absence from Park and Rec, I have submitted the motions on his behalf and will speak to the best of my ability on those. And John will compliment me in speaking to any technical or mechanical issues on the vehicles as we go through. But these are 2 sidewalk tractors that we're looking to replace that are actually multi-use vehicles. We use them primarily for snow removal, but they also double because we can put multiple implements on them, and we use them for a mill and fill program in the summer. So we'll cold plane, asphalt, or mill it out in layman's terms, and then mend up roads that are not on the paving program, try and extend the life out of them until they are on the pavement program.
All right, thank you. Commissioners?
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Pappas?
Are we gonna, I can't recall, are the other ones that we have salvageable for backups or not?
So glad you brought that up. This has become a question recently that I've understood. Everything that I look to replace, and actually through the division, has been in the SURF program. So these vehicles reach their expected end of life or limit of service. Of course, I'm going to keep everything that I can operational until I can't justify it anymore. That's division wide because we count on trying to do the best we can with our level of service to, fill and run.
Yeah.
Sidewalk tractors go down, trucks go down. We lose trucks every season to inspection. We work in the most corrosive environment in the winter. So electrical issues, frame issues, body issues, rot and rust all plays a part in this. But yes, I'm going to keep everything I could possibly keep running because we always seem to be behind the 8 ball as far as getting trucks into runs.
Okay. And I guess, and I'm speaking just generally. I know, and this is more for the mayor and the director, I think. I know, I want to say this is probably even pre-Commissioner Moriarty. we came up with there was a fleet plan that we came up with. Most of everything was broken down all the time. I know the director, when the director was in the it's solid waste, that she was renting trash trucks and that sort of thing, and that was a difficult situation to be in. But that said, I think because we have 2 full-time shifts of mechanics, that I just wonder if maybe every so often we might reevaluate if we need to replace like end-of-life vehicles. I know I've had this discussion. I sound like a broken record all the time, but it's like some people live longer than others, and I know, my van is a 2004 and it works perfectly well. I've got a couple of hiccups here and there, but it still works. So, as I said, I know that trash trucks they have a lot of moving parts, but I think at some point we might sit back and maybe, reevaluate to see if we can try to stretch it out. I certainly would never want to be in the position we were in before, where our stuff was breaking down so often. I think we even had a tow truck that the city owned that we used to tow trucks, and I certainly don't want to be in that situation. But, just every once in a while, I don't think it would be a bad thing to have folks just reevaluate and take a look at if we really need to replace vehicles as often as we do.
So Commissioner Pappas, if I may, and I know you say you wanted to direct that to the director and the mayor.
And I meant no insult to you, just to be clear.
I kick and scream every time they want to take a truck out of service. I got to tell you, to be honest with you.
Okay, good.
I
good.
just want
You
to
sound
say,
like me.
I mean, we've gone to the extent of looking to replace frames on trucks. It's just not feasible in a lot of these aspects. From 2016 to current, I've put 16 trucks out of service. I just want you to know that information.
Okay.
And believe me, I fight tooth and nail. You can speak to John Stewart or Joe Anderson, my foreman in the shop. They'll tell you.
Okay, and as I said, I meant no disrespect to you to ask to ask the mayor or the director. I meant no disrespect at all, but it's just when folks see their taxes going up, I just our trucks aren't cheap, and you know that.
I sure do, and no disrespect taken, and hopefully I didn't overstep the mayor and the director.
Absolutely no. Thank you very much.
And John Stewart will attest. What is the first thing when we go over our SURF items every year, John, that I ask you?
Do we really need to replace it?
Yes.
Exactly.
So we go through every vehicle in great detail, and John has a tremendous amount of knowledge. He's been with the city a long time, but prior to his time with the city has extensive experience as well, and he always is able to justify in great detail why something needs to be replaced. So we do look at that very closely. The mayor also sits down with us, and he asks us every year. We go through and we take a hard look at everything, even before it gets to the staff level. So
Lisa, could I add to that also?
yes, absolutely.
One of the biggest issues, Commissioner Pappas, that we have is when we order these trucks, some of them are a year and a half out now. So we have to plan further ahead than we.
People know that this is Mr. LaFleur from
sorry about that.
Landfill, from the landfill, the superintendent.
And I apologize for interrupting, because I know that even COVID's made that stuff worse. Okay, thank you.
All right.
And I'm sorry to have interrupted you, Mr. LaFleur.
No problem.
Any other commissioners have questions or comments?
Yes,
Commissioner Moriarty.
thank you. Superintendent, how you doing?
Doing very well. How are you?
Hey, you mentioned that they're like for like tractors. So does that mean they're the same make and model as what we've had? Because I know these tractors take a beating on the sidewalk, but they break down all the time.
It's heavy equipment. It's the nature of the beast. When they're running, they're beating themselves up. I'm sorry to say that's just the nature of the beast. Now, I say like for like, yes, the trackless is a 4,200-hour machine. That is like for like. The other tractor, I believe, is a McLean. it shows less hours, but they're susceptible to electrical issues and corrosion. Yeah, it is like for like. We're clearing sidewalks with the two different brands. McLean, I believe, is out of Canada. John, would you like to add to this, please?
Yes, McLean's is actually, it's out of Canada. They're both out of Canada, but McLean's is built by a mining company, which I don't know how much snow they get in the mines that they have to clear, but these sidewalk tractors, my analogy is they're like a helicopter. You operate them for 2 hours and you got 6 to 8 hours worth of work to get them back up in shape again.
All right, I have a question for Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes.
When we started the meeting, you said you were alone in the room, but I see someone sitting or standing over your shoulder there.
Not a diet.
Pardon?
Not a diet.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
Mr. Bones?
All right. Do the commissioners have any other comments? Questions? All right. Could you call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We now are on to item B. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the purchase of two 2021 HV 507 SFA 4x2 cabin chassis from Liberty International of Manchester, New Hampshire for the price of $87,900 each for a total of $175,800. Funding will be through Department 161 Street, Fund Trust, Activity Surf.
Mr. Ibarra?
So these are two plow trucks that we're looking to replace here. Cabin chassis. So the following motion C will be the upfit packages that you'll be looking at. And just trucks that we use for construction and for plowing.
All right. Commissioners? I don't hear anything. Could you call the roll then on motion B?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We're now on to item C. Commissioner Tease.
Yes, I move to approve the purchase of two 6-wheel upfit packages from Tenco USA of Barre, Vermont for the total purchase price of $223,754. Funding will be through Department 161 Street, Fund Trust, Activity Surf.
Does anybody have questions? Any commissioners' comments? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. Item D, we now are on. Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the purchase of one 2020 International CV 515 SFA cabin chassis from Liberty International of Manchester, New Hampshire in the amount of $67,472 pursuant to the State of New Hampshire contract number 8002661. Funding will be through Department 161 Street, Fund Trust, Activity Surf.
Mr. Ibarra?
So this is a 550 Ford. It's a 12. It's suffering from significant rust, corrosion, and electrical issues. What you might notice is the hours on the vehicle, 8325. It's a lot of hours on this truck, though it shows only 45,000 miles. But the hours it's actually working is what you want to look at. We're going to take off of truck 33 a new flatbed body that was installed, but the truck was recently put out of service. So we're going to install that on this cabin chassis to be used for masonry work and snow removal.
Okay, any commissioners? Could you call the roll, please?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yeah.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
yes,
Motion passes. Item E, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the purchase of one 2021 AWD Freightliner XT Pro 70 rear mount aerial bucket truck from Custom One Truck Source of Hooksett, New Hampshire for the Sourcewell 012418 TER contract price of $198,049. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation, Fund Trust Activity Surf.
Mr. Ibarra?
So this is one of Nick's motions to replace his bucket truck. So that's their 70-foot boom, their aerial tree working truck that they use over there. This has reached pretty much the end of its life. We're going to go with it as far as we can, but it will become a backline unit. John, would you like to give any brief history on this vehicle?
Yes, that's truck 525. That will be needing a complete boom overhaul within the next 2 years. It has some play in the knuckle right now. That the boom overhaul, that starts at about $3,500 just for the pins, and it goes up from there. They expect this, being a vehicle that's 12 years old, to possibly need some new mast or a boom, which will drive the price up considerably from there. This vehicle, although it has low miles, the only time it's, I should say, whenever it's working, that engine is running. And it doesn't put a lot of miles on, but it sure does put some hours on. And it's, with the play in the boom now, it's kind of questionable when the wind whips around and they're up there. It's almost a point where sometimes they say it whips, that they get kind of nervous up there in the wind because of the wear in the boom knuckle, but it's not worn to the point yet that it needs to be replaced.
So again, we will run this until it's just not feasible as far as monetarily speaking. But it would be an asset to keep it as a backline unit, given some of the natural disasters we've experienced in the past few years. I mean, I remember, I think it was 3 years back, we had 91 trees blown down in one storm. And this is the backbone of the operation when it comes to cleaning up trees. So it'll be good to have a backup unit in the fleet.
Commissioners?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Moriarty.
Commissioner Moriarty.
I just want to, is the current truck a Freightliner?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you, John.
Commissioner Pappas?
Well, I guess my only concern would be if the thing is blowing around, if we could kind of shore it up before we would use it is a backup, because certainly, I mean, that doesn't sound good. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yeah.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
yes,
Motion passes. Item F is another motion. Commissioner Tease.
Sure, thank you. I move to approve the purchase of one 2021 Ford F-550 Super Duty 4x4 South Code chip truck from Custom One Truck Source of Hooksett, New Hampshire for the Sourcewell One contract price of $81,287. Funding will be through Department 177, Parks and Recreation, Fund Trust Activity Surf.
Excuse me, Mr. Ibarra.
So this is replacing the current old chip truck they have at Park and Rec. And this will also be used in snow operations, but it'll work in tandem with that bucket truck. When they set up their chipping operation, it'll be hauling chips back to the landfill.
Commissioners,
Yes, Mayor.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Superintendent, I can't remember if this is the truck, the CNG. Is this the one that no longer is carrying the CNG?
This will be replacing a non-CNG vehicle. Correct me if I'm wrong, John.
It's replacing a CNG, but the chip truck it's replacing is a diesel.
It's a diesel. Because there's no longer, they're not making them.
The manufacturers have stepped away from CNG. They're finding propane as being the rate they want to go. Just because of the lack of call, they have decided not to make CNG vehicles anymore. As far as Ford, some of them make biofuel, but that's a whole nother ball game.
Thank you.
anyone else? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Sorry, had a hard time there. Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We're now on item G, which is a motion. Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the purchase of one 2020 Morbark Eager Beaver 15-inch chipper from Beauregard Equipment of Concord, New Hampshire for the Sourcewell 18696 price of $81,277.25. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation, Fund Trust, Activity Surf.
Mr. Ibarra.
So this is a replacement of a current 14-year-old chipper over at Park and Rec. Again, a backbone of the operation at Park and Rec when we get a natural disaster. This will also be kept as a backline unit and will be kept in service until it's not feasible economically.
Commissioners? Could you call the roll, please?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We now have item H, another motion. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the purchase of one 2020 Ford F-350 XL four-wheel drive pickup with plow from MHQ of Marlboro, Mass. For the MACP GBPC price of $42,645. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation, Fund Trust, Activity Surf.
Commissioners, or well, excuse me, Mr. Ibarra.
So this truck will be replacing a truck that was donated to Grow Nashua earlier this spring because it was on the replacement list. It was a deferred purchase from FY20 to FY21, and it's replacing an 08.
Commissioners?
If I may, I don't know how many people made it to the end of the meeting. We had a meeting, I think, the past summer, where Alderwoman Kelly and there was a gentleman from that grow, the green company that picked up that was picking up people's vegetable waste and that sort of thing. And that's what we had decided to do, is that we thought it was a good idea to support that rather than to have rather than to have, raw vegetables coming and sitting on the landfill and causing problems for the neighbor. And I think that was a very good, use for the truck. And I'm glad that we decided to do that. Thank you.
And the gentleman from Grow Nashua was Justin Monroe. I think.
Yeah, it was a great presentation, and I think that was a donation well spent, and it was win-win, and it was a win for that company that does try to employ people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and it was a win for the neighbors of the landfill, so they don't have to smell compost in their backyard. So I think that was a great decision. Thank you.
Anybody else? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We now have item 9I, which is another motion. Commissioner Tease.
I move to approve the purchase of a 2020 Sand Pro 5040 from Turf Products Corp. of Enfield, Connecticut, off of the Mass State Contract FAC 88 for the price of $32,768.07. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Fund Trust Activity Service.
Mr. Ibarra.
So this tractor, or I should say groomer, is used to maintain 39 baseball or softball fields throughout the city, and it's just about reached the end of its expected life. Again, we're going to keep it as a backline unit until it's not feasible to put any more funds into it.
Commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We're now on item J, a motion. Commissioner Shoneman.
Mayor,
I
before
move-
Commissioner, I'm sorry, may I interrupt just a second? Before Commissioner Shoneman reads this, there's just one change on the last sentence on the funding. It should say, instead of bond, it should say trust. This will be funded through the SURF fund and not by bond. So instead of bond, it should say fund trust.
All right. Did you
Okay.
catch that, Commissioner Shoneman?
I did.
Okay, thank
Could
you.
go ahead with the motion?
I move to approve the purchase of one ZR side load automated packer waste collection vehicle from McNeilius of Morgantown, PA, in the amount of $347,995, pending bond approval, pursuant to the Sourcewell, formerly NJPA, contract number 112014-NCN. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund Trust Activity Surf.
Mr. Ibarra?
I would defer that to Mr. LaFleur if I
Mr.
could.
LaFleur, I'm sorry.
No problem. Jeff LaFleur,
You've
Superintendent
got it
Solid
under
Waste.
Street Department. You've got it under Street
Well,
Department. Why is there not an entry here for
We
land?
decided, Mayor, we decided to do all the equipment all under one, just to keep us all flowing equally. So
All right, well then we'll let you.
the funding is going to come out of the right place, though.
Mr. LaFleur.
Yes, sir. This automated truck is that it's replacing is a 2011, so it's 9-year-old automated truck. It was our backup truck, and we're replacing it. Right now, that truck is no longer in service. It actually stopped working about 2 months ago. Like we were talking to Commissioner Pappas about how these trucks are really beaten and used hard. This is, like I said, is a 9-year-old truck, and we're looking at over a year to replace this truck. as is as soon as we place the order. So it takes us a long time to get trucks replaced.
Okay, commissioners?
If I may, I have one question, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Pappas?
And I'm not sure who I directed to. So I know that we have a good portion of our solid waste trucks that we fund under SURF. What are the ones that we bond? Because I remember bonding some recently. Is it or not, or within the last year? So how do we decide which ones we save for SURF and which ones we bond, or take out of city money that's kind of extra money?
Well, I think in general, if we have the money in SURF, we want to use it. But if on particularly large purchases where maybe you're buying a whole group of trucks and there aren't current funds to make the purchase, then we would bond or borrow the money. Now that's relatively short term, meaning the life of the bond cannot exceed the expected life of the piece of equipment. But it really has to do with the availability of cash and the size of the purchase.
Okay, so I guess a follow-up, I'm not quite sure who it's to. So would that probably be more of the automatic, the trucks that pick up our trash carts? Those I would imagine are more expensive, is that correct?
We've been bonding those typically, and we usually buy a few at a time, don't we?
Yes, sir. The next motion you'll see is going to be a bond for 2 trucks, and it's a $500,000 purchase.
Okay. All right, because I thought, for whatever reason, earlier in the year, I thought that we did some unscheduled bonding, but okay. All right, so it's just that those are more, the others are more expensive.
Yes.
Or we buy multiples.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now, did we vote on Commissioner Joneman's motion? We did not, right?
No.
Any other comments here?
Yes.
On item J?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Superintendent, so if I remember correctly, this is a CNG vehicle, and I think the next 2 are also CNG vehicles.
Yes.
I'm happy. The brand itself, the McNeilus, have we been happy with that?
Very, very happy with that. And that's why all our whole entire collection fleet is all McNeilus.
Great.
It's all commonality, so we can keep all the parts the same. And yes, they've been working very well.
I love that aspect. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, I just want to be clear that this is not being, and again, in the motion, it says pending bond approval. And that is not the case. This will be funded through cash and SURF. So okay. I just wanted to make sure that was clear to the commissioners. So.
Okay.
Well, we haven't voted yet on motion J.
No, that's correct. That's why I wanted to just make that clear before you voted.
Okay.
I think it's clear that this is not coming from a bond, but
okay.
From the SURF. SURF being Capital Equipment Reserve Fund. Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches?
Yes.
Commissioner Tease?
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Motion passes. We now have item K. Commissioner Moriarty.
I move to approve the purchase of 2 rear load packer waste collection vehicles from McNeilus of Morgantown, PA, in the amount of $285,045 each, for a total of $570,090, pending bond approval pursuant to the Sourcewell, formerly NJPA, contract number 112014 MCN. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund Bond Activity SURF.
Commissioner, Mr. LaFleur.
Yep, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. These are 2 packers. They're going to be replacing 2 8-year-old trucks, and they will be kept as backline for our yard waste season, bulky season.
Commissioners? Could you call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
yes,
Motion passes. We're now moving to the engineering department. Item A is a motion. Commissioner Tease.
Yes, I move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permits and fees as submitted.
I don't think I think this is self-explanatory,
Mhm.
but do the commissioners have anything? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
yes,
Motion passes. Item B, another motion. Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve change order number 3 for the 2019 CIPP lining project with Kenyon Pipeline Inspection of Queensbury, New York, for the amount not to exceed $300,000. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, Fund Bond, Activity Sewer Rehab.
Do we have Mr. Hudson on?
Yes, I'm on, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. So earlier this year, we brought a change order to Kenyon's contract. That was to extend the contract to continue to complete CCTV. This is another requested extension of that. This is to carry us into early next year. As we noted before, we plan to bid out a project, or rebid this for next year. But we want to continue collecting CCTV on so we can identify work that's required next year. So the request is as noted, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions about it.
Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor, just for, although we're familiar with the project, just a couple of sentences just for, for folks who take the time to watch the meetings, just, to kind of remind them what this project is about, I think would be great.
Mr. Hudson?
Sure. So we have an extensive sewer system in the city, and it's important that we maintain it. Obviously, when you dig up a pipe because it collapses, that's very expensive to do. We found historically that costs us about $2.5 million a mile to do a full reconstruction. This project takes a look at the pipes by sending a video camera down them. Through that, we can see whatever there are for defects. And the pipe is still in good shape, but it's showing deterioration, but it's still, circular shape. And we're able to put a liner down. Basically, we create a new pipe within the pipe, and that saves the digging and the hassle that goes along with that. And it's about 10 times less expensive doing a full replacement. So we find great value in this work. In cleaning the pipes as part of the CCTV work, and then lining the pipes that are in need of lining before they go into a more costly repair category.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anyone else? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
yes,
Motion passes. That was, now we're on to item C. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the purchase of a Lika Viva TS16 total station survey instrument and ancillary equipment and software from Maine Technical Source of Woburn, Mass. For the price of $28,262.11. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering. Fund Trust Activity Surf.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a scheduled purchase for survey equipment. This is a robotic total station is what it's called, but it's the primary piece of equipment that our surveyor uses every day out in the field when he's collecting survey to support design, when he's confirming construction is in accordance with plans, and when he's resolving right-of-way issues, easements, and property boundaries and that sort of thing. So it's a very critical piece of equipment to the city's entire engineering operation. The piece of equipment being that this is replacing as frontline equipment, that piece of equipment was purchased in 2009, so it's 11 years old. We will retain that and use that as a backup when this other piece of equipment isn't being calibrated or out of use for whatever reason. But you know, as you can imagine, this is a sensitive electronic piece of equipment. It gets used every day. So being 11 years old, you know, you can imagine your computer being 11 years old and hauling that around every day and using that outdoors in the weather and stuff. You know, we feel this is on schedule for replacement, and so that's why we're proposing it. We requested quotes from 4 companies that provide this type of equipment, and the low bidder was Maine Technical Source, and so that's who we're asking to award this purchase to.
Commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We're now on item D, another motion. Commissioner Tease.
I move to approve the agreement for reimbursement for the bridge design with the town of Hudson, which includes reimbursement to the town of Hudson in an amount not to exceed $40,145.50. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets, Fund Capital Activity, Taylor Falls, and Veterans Bridge.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is an agreement working collaboratively with the town of Hudson to design repairs to the 2 bridges that connect us, being the Veterans Bridge and Taylor Falls Bridge. Those were constructed back in the 1970s. Still in fairly good shape, but they're showing some issues. So this contract would design repairs to you know, make repairs before things get more dire and they require more extensive reconstruction. We previously worked with Hudson on an engineering study. That was kind of an initial look that found that these, you know, were capable of being rehabilitated. So Hudson's put out a request for engineering, and Dubois King is the design firm selected. Total cost for their work will be $80,291. And what this agreement is that we would reimburse the town of Hudson for half of that cost, basically splitting the cost for these bridges that we share responsibility for.
Okay, commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. Item E, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to consider a hardship request from Cumberland Farms Incorporated to excavate in Amherst Street to make roadway improvements for development of the property at 452 Amherst Street.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you. So this is, as noted, a hardship request from Cumberland Farms, 452 Amherst Street. They received planning board approval back in September for a gas station convenience store. The proposed work involves relocating the driveway on Amherst Street, as well as constructing a deceleration acceleration lane along Amherst Street. That's for people to slow down and accelerate out of their site. And that was something that the city requested as part of the comments during the planning board process. And the restoration, there's a map attached to their letter request. The restoration includes milling the roadway to the median, the center median on the roadway, to cover up, all the joints there. So where they're widening, it'll be a full box widening, it'll be a full depth excavation, full pavement depth, curbing, and then the whole area will get milled and resurfaced. And I believe there are representatives of the applicant on the meeting here if the board cares to ask them any questions.
And I don't know who's here for the applicant. Maybe they could introduce.
Should be Heather Monica and Chris Demore from G.
All right, commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for either Mr. Hudson or the applicants?
Yes,
I
Mr.
do.
Mayor.
Let's go with Commissioner Pappas.
I just wanted to unless I read things wrong, that Amherst Street was paved in 2019. And I think when we pave roads, the more you can, their life is decreased by 30%, especially the earlier on in the process. And again, I think it's unfair to the citizens of Nashua to go ahead and to continue to bond resurfacing streets and paving streets, and then letting people cut into the roads so they look like Swiss cheese. And the other comment I would make is that before folks have to go through these processes, before they go to planning board or zoning, whichever they have to go through, that they come here first, so they don't have to spend all the money to go ahead and to go through that process, only to come to this board. And I would just ask my fellow board members to consider that the citizens are being asked to bond street paving for this city, and in the first year, that's absolutely detrimental to the road. And I can appreciate someone wanting to add to their businesses and that sort of thing, but I just don't think that it's fair to the citizens who are paying for the bond to pave these roads to have them cut into within 1 year. Thank you.
Now, I think I heard Commissioner Tease. Were you?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was wondering, maybe Mr. Hudson or folks representing the applicant, what is the hardship in this instance?
Do we have?
Heather, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
If you hit your space.
Is Ms. Muller?
Sorry about that. I'm here. I'm Heather. Sorry, these new fancy headphones we got, I had them up on mute. I apologize. So for the record, I am Heather Monacup with Greenman Peterson, and we're the traffic engineers and actually the site engineers for the recently approved Cumberland Farms project. And honestly, I guess Commissioner Pappas makes a good point. Maybe we should have come there, but we were unaware of the actual schedule of the paving at the time when we moved forward with the project. This was something that was brought on. I think we had already submitted to the planning board at that time, and Chris Tamula is on the line from GPI as well, so he can add to anything else. But we did get our approvals in September, and obviously that was after it was paved. And I wanted to note that the work that we're doing is not a deep excavation. It's just some shift of curbing and then doing some improvements that actually the city is requiring of us. So it would be a hardship that now Cumberland Farms has this approved site that the city has approved, and now it would have to wait, 3.5 years to build it. It's unlikely that I guess unless I don't think we would be allowed to have the project open without a driveway on Amherst Street. Wouldn't be good for traffic flow, and the site works well because it's got the driveway on Amherst Street and on Townsend West. I can share my screen of the plans that were submitted if that helps to get a view of what we plan on doing. But I know some people are on phones and some are on the computer, so I guess I would just whatever the pleasure of the board is.
Okay. Commissioner Teese, you have other questions?
No, I was interested just so we can ensure that the record reflects what the actual hardship was. So I appreciate the response. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other commissioners?
Mayor.
Commissioner Moriarty.
I just comment that I'm kind of disappointed. I thought it was the other Cumberland Farms on Amherst Street by Broad Street, because that's a nightmare for traffic, and I'd be so much in favor of that.
Yeah.
Traffic. But now I realize, no, it's where the restaurant was, right? So that's okay.
Correct.
That's my only comment. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
I'd also like to comment, please.
Commissioner Shoneman.
In general, I am very much of the same mind as Commissioner Pappas that we pave these roads and we really, it's to our benefit long-term financially to not dig into these roads. But I think another Cumberland Farms would be a benefit. I also think that the Cumberland Farms near Broad Street is a nightmare. I've almost been wiped out at least 2 or 3 times there. But having a good way to get in and out of those kind of businesses is crucial to being able to use them for them to be successful. So I do think it's terrible to rip into these brand new roads, but I think in this case it would be a good thing to approve it. So I'm going to support it.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Teese,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
No.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We now are on item F.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to consider a hardship request from Colbia Enterprises LLC to excavate in Amherst Street and Blackstone Drive to make driveway and site improvements for development of property at 4 Blackstone Drive.
Thank you for the motion. Mr. Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a similar situation. There's a site improvement that's been approved by the planning board. It's a gas station convenience store, includes 2 driveways, one on Amherst Street and the other on Blackstone Drive. Both of those are a moratorium. This work involves some work at the driveway entrances. So there's a little bit of curbing and driveway work, but only along the edge of the road. In the application attached to the memo, you'll see that the restoration proposed was in accordance with the ordinance, which involves a 20-foot mill and pave for the roadway abutting the driveway entrances. But in this case, I'd like to propose that the consider an alternate treatment. I'm concerned that in strict adherence to the ordinance in this case may do more damage than good, because this work is only along the edge of the road and there's no deep excavation. So in this case, it would make sense to me anyway to only do a narrow mill and pave if you choose to approve this. When you put in a curb and a driveway, you only cut about a foot into the road. So we avoid doing, a 3-foot, but and then milling the whole road, the work would be limited to the shoulder of the road. And if the board agrees with this approach and asks that we do it as a pilot program, the board has the jurisdiction under the ordinance to permit us to take on pilot programs. And we see situations like this where there's a minimal excavation at the edge of the road. And I don't believe it's in the spirit of the ordinance necessarily to do that full width mill in those cases. So with that, I'll stop talking. I believe there's representatives of the owner here too, Michael Gazdaco and Chris Rice from TF Moran, the engineer.
Mr. or Commissioner Moriarty, would you agree to amend your motion to include the Mr. Hudson recommendations regarding the approach?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Now, do commissioners have comments or questions either for Mr. Hudson or for the representatives of the applicant?
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Pappas.
again, I really wish that this board would take a look at the what was provided by Mr. Dukran and the engineering department when we were looking into what happens when you cut into roads during the first few years. In the first couple, that's when you really get slammed. And I will repeat that I think it's a total disrespect to the citizens of Nashua to cut into a road that was paved in 2019. You know, at least Blackstone Drive was 2016. I might be able to hold my nose for that, but I think it's totally wrong for us to continue to ask people to pay for bonding for roads when we're cutting into them in the first couple of years. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Questions from the commissioners?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty.
I just comment that I really like this concept, Mr. Hudson, of trying this idea. I like that, you know, that's forward thinking, and I'd like to see that.
All right. Anyone else? Any other comments, commissioners? Any questions for the applicant? All right. Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
No.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We now have an informational item. I don't know who's handling this. Is this Mr. Hudson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just to note that there were no street opening permits for streets in moratorium in October.
Okay. Thank you. Now we're on to administration. We first have both these items, I'm sure, with the director, but I'm sure, Ms. Fota, you have a director's report. Is there any new update on the DPW facility?
You're on mute, Director.
Thank you. There's no update on the DPW facility, but I did want to update the board that the sale of Burke Street, I think Director Cummings had said that it would be sold hopefully by the end of this year. And now it looks like it's been delayed 1 month. So now I was told the end of January. So I just wanted to update the board, and if I hear any further news on that, I'll certainly let you know.
So not the end of 2020, but the end of 2020. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I spoke without being recognized.
Commissioner
It would be
So it'll be in 2021, not in 2020.
January, correct, Commissioner Pappas, January of 2021.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on that? If not, could you, Director Photo, go on to your director's report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Okay, The first slide is sewer replacement at the library. This was done by SUR West on October 16th. This is 1880s era, 12-inch concrete pipe, and it was deteriorated to the point where it couldn't be lined, so we replaced it. Diane, you've got the wrong, you're showing, can you see what you're showing? You're showing, okay. Let's try that again. Okay, great. This is sewer service lateral on Lock Street at Orange. Again, being installed by SUR West on October 26th. This is some curb installation on Farley Street that was done by Sunshine Paving. This is actually bituminous curbing. This is a picture of final paving on Farmers Trail. Approximately 20,000 tons of asphalt was placed this year on 89 streets. This again is some Sunshine Paving. Has done some final paving on Tamaulipas Drive. The next few slides are regarding our Charlotte Ave Safe Routes to School program. This is new granite curb and sidewalk that was installed by Northeast Earth Mechanics. A new stop sign was added on the Charlotte Ave westbound approach to Charlotte Street. School zone signs with radar feedback will be installed in December. And an enhanced ADA compliant pedestrian crossing was installed on Charlotte Ave at the elementary school. A bump out was added to shorten the crossing distance, and street lighting was adjusted to improve visibility for pedestrians. This is the concrete sidewalk on East Hollis Street as part of our 2020 sidewalk program. And it's on the south side from CVS to Harbor Ave, approximately 1,200 feet. We've been very busy with fall cleanup. On the left, we're cleaning up leaves at Greeley Park, and on the right, we're cleaning out the remnants of the community gardens. We removed the floating dock at the boat ramp at Mine Falls near the Conway Arena in preparation for the winter. We are having Santa in the park this year, very exciting. It will look a little bit different. Kids will not be sitting on Santa's lap, but they'll be able to get their picture taken with Santa, socially distance 6 feet away, and get a gift and a candy cane. And that will be on Saturday, December 5th from 12 to 2. And we will be using the band shell this year to do that.
I'd like to mention that Commissioner Schoeneman's husband, David, is very active in the Santa in the Park event every year. He cooks chestnuts and a bunch of other things. And it's a really great time. So with social distancing, if you feel you'd like to go, it's a really fun event.
Thank you.
And then Commissioner Pappas's husband also is very active with that. He's there every year helping out. And I think with the presents, his expertise is a little different than David Schoen. They've got separate concentrations, but they're both extremely helpful for many years in presenting that wonderful event.
I think
Yes,
Commissioner.
and our son is an elf in training. In fact,
yeah.
Mary Pappas has been training him to be assistant elf.
So hopefully we'll see you on that day.
This is the next slide is street crews performing mill and fill in front of Nashua Catholic. There's an area adjacent to the sidewalk where the asphalt was in really poor shape, so we fixed that. We had an emergency sewer dig at 37 Woodland Street to replace a failed section of a sewer service. The work continues at Lincoln Park. If you haven't seen it, the playground looks amazing. All we have left is curbing and finished paving. And we do plan on getting that done this year. We helped the fire department with the Pine Hill Fire Station. We did some paving there. Our wet weather facility upgrade is almost complete. We expect that it should be substantially complete by mid-December. So we're really anxious to see the flow that we'll hopefully get through the plan, and that should help reduce the CSOs from discharging. So we're very anxious to see that fully operational. We finished phase 1 of our pump station upgrades. This is a picture of staff training at the Watson Street pump station. And phase 2 right now is being prepared to go out for bid. Our energy recovery project, another project that's been going on for quite some time, is nearing completion. This is just a picture of some the screw press maintenance. The mechanics are taking apart the screw press to replace some brushes. This is a pump replacement, again, at the wastewater treatment plant in the odor control tower for the sludge storage tanks. Soft yard waste collection ends on December 4th, Friday, December 4th.
Very, very generous. That I think that people that really appreciate that very generous extra week. Thank you.
I think so
people
too,
do.
Commissioner Pappas. We used to try to end at Thanksgiving, but it just seemed like it never worked out. So we've been extending it for the past few years.
Folks appreciate it.
I think so. The Four Hills landfill will be closed on Thursday, November 26th for Thanksgiving, and curbside pickup will be delayed 1 day. So Thursday routes will be picked up on Friday, and Friday's routes will be picked up on Saturday. And we are open on, the landfill is open on Friday, November 27th. And that's it. Any questions?
Questions, comments from the commissioners? All right, well, thank you, Director Photo. Now we are on to in the agenda commissioners' comments. Do any commissioners have comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Tease.
I know this does not come under our purview, but I'm certain that we were informed. But I had a few people ask what was taking place in the northbound section of the Everett Turnpike basically all day today, between exits 5 and 6.
Does anybody know the answer there?
I don't. Dan, do you?
No, I don't. Sorry.
And then I'm going to also send an email to the commissioner. There's an intersection, excuse me, to the director. Sorry, I just demoted you, Lisa. There's an intersection that's not, in my mind, not properly signed. There should be a stop sign. There's it's over by the cemetery, kind of past St. Chris, and I can't remember if it's Dartmouth, but I'll get you that intersection. I'm wondering if you folks might take a look at it.
Sure.
If I may, I think Commissioner Tease is right. In that little area, there are several that they don't have stop signs. You think that most people would stop, but he is correct. And I've never had a pen and paper there when I've driven by, but that is absolutely correct.
Yeah, please get me the street, and we'll be happy to take a look.
I want to say Douglas, but I think there's more than one. Commissioner Tease may have hit another one, but there are a couple of streets there.
If there's a high street there in Dartmouth, I think is what it might have been, but it only became apparent to me. My daughter attends St. Christopher's, and I had the pleasure of going as a family this morning to drop her off, and my wife pointed it out, and it's an awfully busy area given the social distancing and the drop-offs for the kids. So I thought we might just take a look at it, and I'll get that intersection for you. Thank you.
And I think Douglas might be the other one that kind of comes to mind, because I did notice that there were a couple of streets over in that area that do have that. Commissioner Tease is correct.
All right, any other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Pat.
Okay, so I've been asking, I've asked the director, and she sent me, I've been concerned about COVID procedures for our employees. Is you know, we're gonna, our folks work closely together, and you know, I think that we've done a lot, and you know, getting kind of set up for that. But I will say that I looked through the procedures, and it looks like they're kind of citywide procedures, and I'm just wondering if we are an employer board and it is a division, if we might come up with some that are more stringent. And I will say, this is, you know, it's uncomfortable to ask people to wear masks. You know, today my daughter is, I've got a kid that comes, a college student that helps with math. And even though I think we're all pretty safe, today was the first day now that the numbers are exploding. They said, hey, can you wear a mask? And I had my daughter wear a mask. Both of them, I was uncomfortable asking that because they've not done masks before. And they can stay 6 feet apart, but for the most part, I thought that was safer. And I did look through the procedures, and it looks like in the procedures for City Hall is if you're 6 feet or more apart, you don't have to wear a mask. And I think that that's something that if we were to come up with our own policy, that we may rethink. When I think of those doctors holding up those masks and saying, you know, before we're almost there. We almost have these inoculations, vaccinations ready for folks to take. And I would think that maybe our folks would be considered, you know, one of the first ones to get vaccinated. But we may have a few months to get through. So I would consider people go into grocery stores and wear masks. Grocery store employees wear masks all the time. And I think that last month I had mentioned that when I went into City Hall for motor vehicles, that I felt very safe. I wore a mask to make an appointment. Then I went to my appointment. I wore a mask. I waited in line. They let a few people in at the time, and there was a lot of plexiglass. And I noticed that the motor vehicles employees behind the plexiglass weren't required to wear masks, and they were, you know, sometimes they had to share printers and that kind of thing. And my thought was, if I were working there, I would really like a mask requirement, because, you know, you have a lot of college kids that are home, and those, you know, that kind of age group kind of is behind some of the spread. And we don't have charge of City Hall, and I get that. I would just say, as an employer board, I would really like us to maybe come up with our own mask policy, because even, you know, it is uncomfortable to ask people to wear masks, and it is uncomfortable, you know, to have people you work next to wear masks. But I think if we require it, I think we might be able to get our folks through this. Maybe only 2 months left. And they do, you know, they do kind of work closely together. And I think it would be a disaster for the city if we had some kind of an outbreak during these winter months, where we've got Thanksgiving, we have Christmas coming up. And I just really would like us to have this on the agenda for next month, and really be thinking about, you know, kind of shoring up those policies, not to be difficult, not to be a jerk, but just to keep our folks working, and to keep them safe and to keep their families safe. That's I don't know if other people have views on it, but that's how I see it. I know my husband mostly works from home, but when he goes into the office, he has to wear a mask unless if he's in his office by himself with the door closed, he can take his mask off. And even his friend, comes in, if the office isn't very crowded, his friend comes into his office, his friend wears a mask, my husband puts the mask back on. And I just think that that's good practice. And it's uncomfortable for me to bring that. I'm thinking of mechanics. I'm thinking of going through each department and having something very specific, because what I saw, and I did, the director did send around an email, and I so much appreciated it with it outlined. But I think that we can tighten things up, and that's just my view. I think if your employer requires you to wear a mask, you'll wear a mask. Thank you.
Sure. And that is just to hopefully make you feel better, Commissioner Pappas, that is our requirement. The only time that you are not required to wear a mask is if you're in your office by yourself. I can tell, Dan will tell you, in administration, we come out of our offices, we have masks on. We go into each other's offices, we have masks on. We go into the restrooms, we have masks on. The only time that we don't have masks on is when we are alone in our offices. And I've communicated that very clearly to all the departments. In fact, recently, in this last week, I visited every single department, including engineering, and talked to them about that and explained everything and the procedures and how to stay safe and how to get tested and what quarantine means. So I've gone over everything again with them, and they're very clear. In fact, I was at the street department, which is probably, definitely the largest. And when I was talking to them, I had a mask on, and I did not see one employee that didn't have, even though we were out in the garage and they were all socially distanced, every one of them had a mask on.
Okay.
And I saw that. So I'm incredibly proud of our staff, and I think they're doing a really good job wearing masks, and hopefully that makes you feel better.
It does, but if we can come up with our own written policy to say, when the mechanics are in there, that they have masks on, or I just think our own specific policy, and even, if you want a work session for us to come up with it, because as I said, I think that some departments may have something more loose. I would really like to see just a division-wide and department. These are the requirements, because I think we have to keep our people safe. And, even if you're working as a mechanic in a well pretty far away from someone, if you're there for a certain number, for a lot of hours during the day, I think masks should be required. And I didn't see that in the written policy. So I would really appreciate our own written policy. From what I've seen, I don't know how other people feel, but I think it's really important.
It's really hard for me to hear that, Commissioner Pappas. I feel like almost I have worked so incredibly hard to keep the staff safe. In fact, I've been, that's one of the priorities that I've been working on since last spring. And, if the board doesn't think that I have done a good job doing that and wants to come up with a policy, that's certainly up to the board. But I can tell you that I have put a very, very tight policy, I think tougher than what's happening in City Hall. And I, while I'm happy to take suggestions, as far as mask wearing goes, I don't think we could get any stronger or any tougher with that. And I think employees are doing a really good job.
Okay, but I just think, to me, it's not that I question. I think when I asked for something in writing, I kind of got the City Hall stuff. I would like procedures for our own division, and in each department. I don't mean to certainly don't mean to disrespect or anything like that. I'm just trying to do my job from the written procedure that I got. That's all.
But did you see the memo, Commissioner Pappas, that actually my assistant Diane help me put together? That really outlines everything that Public Works is doing. Those aren't City Hall procedures. And of course, we're taking our guidance and direction from Public Health, who are the experts. Director Bagley has been to all the departments, I think, and has spoken with staff and answered questions and have been very helpful. And they're the ones that have really outlined all of the procedures that we have implemented. And certainly, the Board of Aldermen passed the mask ordinance. So we're required by that ordinance to wear masks in city buildings. So I think there's a lot, there has been a lot that has been put in place in terms of guidance and rules that I think, the mayor and the Board of Aldermen were really pioneers, and the governor just passed a statewide mask ordinance that probably should have been done when the city of Nashua decided to do that, and we probably wouldn't have the spread that we're having now. So I think we as a city have been really proactive, and that's a tribute to our city leadership.
No, I understand, but I guess what I'm trying to say, if I'm a mechanic in the department and the bays are far apart, am I required to wear? I guess maybe I didn't understand the memo. Would I be required to wear a mask?
Most of the mechanics are in their own bays, so they're a lot more than 6 feet apart. So no, because they're doing physical labor, they wouldn't be required to wear a mask unless they couldn't social distance. So the fleet foreman and the fleet manager share an office. If they're in the office together, then they wear then they must wear masks.
Okay, well, I guess if, I understand the 6 feet apart is a guideline, but we're seeing outbreaks and that sort of thing. So I think I certainly don't object to the mask mandate, but I think that as a city that we should be setting a good example if all the folks working in grocery stores wear masks and that sort of thing. And even if the bays are kind of far apart, my understanding is we were having some problem, that sometimes we do have some problems with the with the airflow in the street department. And I just that's all. I think that the 6 feet apart is that is a guideline. But I just think if other places have folks wear masks, I don't think that would be a bad thing for us to do. But maybe other people feel differently. Thank you.
Now, in City Hall, the 6 feet is not the only requirement. So there's more than one provision in the policy. So in the common areas of the building, people have to wear masks at all times, no matter what the circumstances. And in the City Hall situation, common areas are much of the building. When they are in their offices, not within 6 feet of anyone else, they don't have to wear a mask. But in the common areas of the building, they should be wearing masks. Maybe we should take a look at the policy. I mean, I think if two people are in the same office and talking, such as you've described for Tom's work, yeah, people should be wearing masks. Now, I think we're requiring that or asking people to do that in City Hall, and I think the ordinance may cover it, but maybe we should make that clearer.
Right, but I'm just all I'm saying is when I went in to register a car in July, and I didn't feel unsafe from the workers were behind the plexiglass. I didn't feel like I would ever certainly get COVID from them, but they're kind of working in a large common area all day. And my feeling was for them, I thought, geez, I really hope that we wouldn't do that to our employees because, you might be 6 feet apart, but you're sharing the same air all day. So, that has what has,
And we,
this
you
is the
know,
reason, Matt.
we have gotten that complaint, and the supervisor of that department has been talked to make sure, because yes, you're right, those people should be wearing masks, all day long.
Okay, all right. As I said, we don't go into the buildings that often. I don't, measure the amount of space between each bay. I'm just thinking in terms of keeping people safe. And as I said, when I went into motor vehicles, I wasn't, angry or anything. I just felt badly for the workers because I thought, jeepers, my kids were, my two older ones aren't at home anymore for the moment. They'll be back 18 and 22. It was really hard to kind of rein them in and say, you know what, you really can't go out to your friends all the time because you kind of can't bring it back home. And when I felt really badly when I saw the folks from motor vehicles, that they were just kind of at the mercy of whoever they worked with, breathing the same air. So I don't want to do that to our employees, and I don't want to insult anyone. I'm just trying to take extra caution. I appreciate all the as someone who's got an underlying condition, a lung condition, I so appreciate everything that's been done, and I just want us to keep our employees safe. Thank you.
The area where they're registering cars is a common area of the building. So I believe, the policy requires masks by those employees for the reasons you've, described. And I believe after some discussions with the supervisors, they are wearing masks at this time. But if anyone,
okay, good. You know what? I'm really glad to hear that. I'm not saying it to be a jerk. As I said, I felt very badly when I went in there for the employees. And I understand if you have someone who has a hearing problem or someone whose English is a second language, you might need to take off your mask to speak to them. But as I saw it in July, I was just concerned. That's why I've been concerned for our employees. Thank you.
all right, any other comments for the director? Questions? I think we are on commissioners' comments, right?
Yeah.
All right, if there's nothing further, we have personnel items. First, the motion A, there's a suggestion of a non-public session, but I think our custom in view of the remote virtual nature of these meetings is that unless there's something highly controversial, we're handling all the personnel items in the public session. So unless someone suggests otherwise, that's the procedure we'll follow today. So under personnel, we have motion A. I think we're on Commissioner Tees.
Sure. I move to approve the selection of Mr. Sean Traxel of Nashua, New Hampshire to the position of wastewater collection system operator at the wastewater treatment facility. Hourly rate for this position will be $24.49. Funding will be through Department 169, wastewater fund, wastewater account classification 51, salaries and wages.
Comment?
We have a resignation too to take up probably before that. But we can do that after. So Sean Track.
Can I just, which motion did?
We missed the resignation of Ryan Pelletier.
Yeah, I was thinking that's what Commissioner Tees was going to do. Do you see that one, Commissioner Tees? Under the resignation of Ryan Pelletier?
Boy, I'm sorry. Did I read the wrong?
I'll make the motion I move that we accept the resignation of Ryan Pelletier, operator 2 at the wastewater treatment facility, effective November 7th, 2020. Any discussions on that? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tees,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Now, Commissioner Tease has already made motion A under the next personnel list of motions. And that motion pertained to Sean Traxel. Commissioner Tease, that's the motion you made, right?
Yes, sir.
So I think we've heard that. And is there any discussion on that motion?
Mr. Traxel is currently a wastewater assistant, and he has been training and working on his certification. And we are happy to see that he now has the qualifications to move into a collection system operator.
All right, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We now have item B, which I think is on the same page. Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes, I move to approve the selection contingent upon the acceptable results of criminal and driving record checks of Mr. Patrick Carr of Nashua, New Hampshire, to the position of WW Assistant in the wastewater treatment facility. Hourly rate for this position will be $22.41. Funding will be through Department 161 Wastewater, Fund Wastewater, Account Classification 51, Salaries and Wages.
Any discussion on this motion?
This gentleman has worked for us as a seasonal help at the landfill. And he's done a great job. He's recently graduated, and he applied for this position, and we think he'll do a great job.
Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We're now on motion C. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the selection contingent upon the acceptable results of criminal and driving records checks of Mr. Adam Cadero of Pepperell, Mass. To the position of wastewater assistant at the wastewater treatment facility. Hourly rate for this position will be $22.41. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater, Fund Water, Account Classification, 51 Salaries and Wages.
Director Photo.
So Mr. Cordero has worked for the Hollis Brooklyn Middle School for a long time as a custodian. And I met with him, very nice man. He is very excited about pursuing a career in wastewater. He feels like there is room for advancement, and is really excited about the opportunity.
Anybody have comments? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We're now on item D. Commissioner Tease.
Yes, I move to approve the selection of Michael T. Doobie for the position of truck driver, street repair, street department. Starting salary for this position will be $22.41 per hour. Funding will be through Department 161 Street Department, Fund General, Account Classification 51, Salaries and Wages.
Director Photo.
Mike is moving from a mason position to a truck driver position. He's done a great job, and I'm sure he'll continue to do some mason work for us as a truck driver.
Commissioners, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We're now on item E, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the selection of Robert Gendon of Bedford, New Hampshire, to the position of street foreman, street department. Starting salary for this position will be $33.11 per hour. Funding will be through Department 161 Street Department, Fund General, Account Classification 51, Salaries and Wages.
Director Photo.
So Bob has worked for the city for quite some time. He's been a huge asset. He has the ability that many don't have to read plans and to do really high level projects. He was instrumental in the Lincoln Park project and the boat ramp, actually helping guide other foremen. So he'll be a real asset. He's a very talented guy. He's applied for many foreman positions, and happy to say that to finally be able to promote him. And he's very excited, and I think he'll do a great job.
Sounds great.
Any commissioners, anything? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donchis,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. And we have completed our agenda. Commissioner Moriarty, do you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donchis,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
You sounded
Yes.
tentative there.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Commissioner T sounded a little tentative. I don't
I
know.
know, I was nervous because I struggle sometimes with unmuting the damn thing, and I figure you guys are gonna call me out on sleeping, so I was just a little hurried.
All right, so that was a legitimate yes then. So the meeting is adjourned by a unanimous vote at about 8:31 p.m. Thank you all for attending, and we will see you soon. We have a meeting Monday, right? Special.